All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this CLE webinar today. My name is Jake Drzajic. I work at Connect in our partner management department. So I'm really excited to talk a little bit today about how texting can save time and help protect personal injury attorneys as well. So really excited to talk about this. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them into the Q&A section there. We'll answer those as they go or as we go along. Really excited to jump into this today. It's a topic that doesn't come up too often, but it's something that is very relevant, really important when it comes to your firm, your practice, and how you're communicating with your clients. So today we'll talk a little bit about how this topic and how this idea kind of fits into the ethics of things. Take a look at a couple of ethics rules and how we can help meet those rules, stay compliant with those rules, while providing a great client experience as well. So again, feel free to throw in any questions that you have in the Q&A, and we'll answer those as we go along, whether those are about Connect or otherwise. Feel free to throw those in. So like I mentioned, my name is Jake Drzajic. I work at Connect in our partner management department. And really excited to be on here to help talk about this topic here. So let's talk a little bit about client communication. It's a topic that's obviously very important, always on the top of mind when it comes to lawyers and practices. Let's take a look at one of the rules here, Rule 1.4 about communication. It says a lawyer shall promptly inform the client, reasonably consult with the client, keep the client reasonably informed, promptly comply with reasonable requests for information. Okay, so when you think about this and how you're doing this currently, it's something to think about, right? A lot of times practices and lawyers will get involved in, in a certain way of doing things, a certain way of communicating. Um, and it's hard to kind of get away from that, right? It's how it's always been done, and it's hard for people to take on new things. So we encourage people to think, are you in that boat? How are you communicating with clients? What do your processes look like? Oh, is it time for a refresh? Is it time to consider how you're doing things? And always consider also these rules here when it comes to these ethics rules and how you are to communicate with your clients. So let's jump into a little bit about client communication, what it looks like, the current state today. And again, as we move forward, I would encourage you to continue to think about your current processes, how they can be changed, how they can be updated, how they can be improved, with the aim of being compliant to these ethics rules here as well. And again, questions that come in, we'll take a look at them. We'll answer them as we go. One already came in here asking specifically about the Connect platform. Do you synchronize with Clio? Yes, we do have a Clio integration. Would love to, you can reach out to us and tell you more about that, but good question there. So let's talk about client communication here. Like it says in here, the days of phone contact are numbered, and I would even say they're almost gone, right? The days of calling people on the phone, leaving voicemails, playing phone tag, that's the old days, right? That just doesn't happen that much anymore. People don't want to spend time doing that. That's just not where we are today. Clients expect to communicate with you through text, because that's how they communicate with everybody in their daily lives, right? Their spouses, their family, their employers even. That's what people expect these days. How do you treat the letters you send to clients? So letters specifically, what does that look like? What does that process look like for you? Something to consider. Do these communication mediums qualify as prompt? Like it says in the rule there, your job as a lawyer is to communicate promptly, provide information promptly, and make sure that that you're taking care of that, and that it's done promptly and done well and efficiently. Are they even communicating anymore, right? So are your methods of communication, is it a back and forth? Is it a situation where you're actually communicating, where you're being effective, being efficient, and getting things done, right? Communicating well with your clients. So something to consider there as we move forward. Something to think about as well is, does email still work? Okay, the average email open rate has dropped below 20%, 17 in most studies. And a quick anecdote that I have, and I like to tell people, is one time I have a coworker. He was showing me something on his phone, and I noticed his email application had over 145,000 unread emails. 145,000. That might be an extreme case, and I think it probably is, but I think we can all relate at some level, right? We're not reading emails. We have so many email subscriptions and so much junk coming in. It's just hard to keep up with. At the same time, I looked at his text messaging application, and he had one unread text message. Okay, so obviously that's how he's communicating with people. It was evidence to me that that's what the consumer today wants to do. They want to receive that type of communication. It's quick, it's easy, it's accessible. That's how people want to communicate today. 49% of all email is now spam. I totally believe that, right? That is that seems very, very poignant, very true to me. There's even apps created where you can go on, sync up your email, and unsubscribe from all the subscriptions you have. So there's businesses being made on unsubscribing from all this junk email that's coming through. Email response rates have dipped to 6%, and sometimes even lower is what we found. So again, consider email, right? Are people responding to your emails? Or have you just, that's how you do things, right? We've sent out marketing emails, we've sent out follow-up emails, and that's just how we've done it for the last 15, 20 years, and that's what we do. The average business professional receives over 120 emails per day. A staggering statistic. That's a lot of emails. A lot of the times, and I'm sure you can resonate with this, is that you could spend most of your day, if not an entire day, just going through emails and responding to emails. Yeah, a lot of questions. Did you get my email? Does this sound familiar? A lot of email has become obsolete. People are not even looking at it anymore. And if you see these icons here at the bottom, you've got Mail America Online, Hotmail. As antiquated as these icons are, that's what email is becoming today. Let's talk a little bit about people answering the phone, just talking on the phone as well. The phone call app on a smartphone is the 5th most used app. Okay, so number 5. I'll let you guess as to what the most used app is, maybe besides Instagram or Facebook. But it's just not used as much as it used to be, and just phone calls are not as relied on as much. You can attribute that to rising spam and robocalls. Over 3 billion robocalls are placed per month in the US. Okay, so tons of these automated calls, these spam calls, have made it so that people don't trust phone calls. There's even settings on your phone now to where if it's an unrecognized number, it will, you can ignore it. You can send it straight to voicemail. So some interesting statistics here showing that these spam and robocalls are on the rise, and that they're causing a big issue with people answering phone calls. Some reports suggest that half of all calls placed to cell phones are spam calls. I believe that one as well, right? How many times have you gotten a call about your car's extended warranty or some other warranty? Lots of spam calls coming through our phones these days. And then voicemail is something to think of as well. Do you really leave a voicemail if no one answers? Do you trust that service anymore? Do you trust people to listen to their voicemails? I would say I don't, right? And a lot of people's messages for their voicemail will say, hey, I'm not here right now, send me a text, right? That's the best way to get a hold of me. Send me a text. Please don't leave me a voicemail. I've heard that quite a bit as well. Please don't leave me a voicemail. All right, so another thing to consider there, do people still answer their phone? A couple more stats here to go through when it comes to people answering the phone. 10% of adults are willing to answer calls from a toll-free number. Only 10%. We're trained really well to just send it straight to voicemail or ignore it, right? 15% of adults are willing to answer calls from a different area code. Okay, so even if it seems like a legit number, if it's a different area code, people are not calling it. And a lot of the cases, with your practice, it extends across area codes. You'll cover a lot of different areas. And, the ability to still reach people in different area codes is very important. Less than 30% of adults are willing to answer calls from unknown local numbers. Okay, so even when you get down to the local, same area code, I recognize the area code, but I don't recognize this number, so I'm not going to answer. All right, that's kind of the state of things today. And people spend up to 15 seconds responding to an email or text message, but the average phone call lasts more than 2 minutes. So as you know, I mean, you're a lawyer, your time is very limited, but it's the same thing with the regular person, right? The average phone call lasts more than 2 minutes. People don't have that time. They don't want to spend that time on the phone. They want to be responding to a text message, and they want to be using their time really efficiently. Let's see. And you got to ask yourself, are calls from your firm being screened out as spam, right? You need to ask yourself, people that don't have your number saved, they're probably not going to answer that phone unless they have your number saved, right? That's what you need to consider there. So let's talk a little bit about business text messaging, the solution to maintaining an ethical level of communication in a convenient medium. All right, so we talked about email, we talked about phone and voicemails. Let's talk a little bit about business texting here and how it can be utilized. So what is business texting, right? What's the basics? Business texting is taking your practice phone number, not your personal cell number, and using it to communicate with clients via two-way text messaging. Okay, really important to delineate here that this is not your personal cell phone number. And that's a lot of the feedback that we get as we work with lawyers across North America is, it's some people see it as a more personal touch to give out my personal cell phone number, but in a lot of cases, that's not the best client experience, right? It doesn't allow you the ability to provide the best client experience. And it can also be, detrimental to you and your personal life. You need the chance to unwind, to disconnect, and using your personal cell phone number doesn't allow you that opportunity. Messages can be sent using any device, including your mobile phone, but all messages are sent over your practice number, not your personal number. So with a solution like Connect, you have the desktop version and you also have a mobile version. So you can send messages from anywhere, but you're always sending it through that main firm number, your main practice number. All messages are stored securely in the cloud and accessible at any time from any device. That's really important as well, right? Where are we keeping client information, and who has access to it? That's something that we'll talk a little bit about here moving forward, but that's something to consider as well. So business texting often uses an online platform that can be accessed from multiple devices to send and receive text messages. So you can have multiple people at your firm have access to specific messages, specific conversations, and it really increases that efficiency, right? You don't have to say, here, I'm going to send you a screenshot of this text that I got from this client. This is what they're asking for. You can just direct somebody to, hey, go look on our business texting platform. This is the conversation. Let's get things squared away here. So the basics of business texting here. Okay, here's some stats about how clients prefer text messaging. Okay. Sources listed there at the bottom. 89% of clients would prefer to interact with businesses through text messaging rather than a phone call. Okay. 98% of all text messages are open. 95% are read within 3 minutes. And I mentioned that story about my coworker who had 145,000 unread emails and one unread text message. Just more evidence to this point here. Clients are 7 times more likely to text you back after receiving a text than they are to call you back after receiving a voicemail, right? It's really simple, really easy to send that text back. It's a bigger ask. It's a bigger task to have to respond to a voicemail to make that call and take that time. Clients no longer want to wait on hold or leave a voicemail, right? They want that 5-star, super convenient experience when they're working with their lawyer. All right. And a lot of people prefer texting when it comes to this aspect of things. Okay, continuing along the vein of client communication, texting saves time for attorneys and staff. Right. So we talked a little bit about business texting. What is it? What you're able to do with it. It also saves time for attorneys and staff. Texting is convenient for you and your clients. For simple communication, texting is almost always faster than calling and more effective. Clients that are difficult to reach by phone, texting can be a great solution as well. One thing that I'll point out here is a lot of the times we hear from lawyers that, my clientele, they're usually older people, right? They're older people, so they do better on the phone. We are to the point where even old people are texting, right? Even older people are texting. Texting has been around long enough to where everybody is texting, right? Grandmas, grandpas, everybody down to 8 and 9-year-olds even are texting. So when we hear that, we try to help people understand that, look, texting has been around for a long time. Some people are still not on board as far as business texting goes, but they should be, because even the older generation, those people are texting and they've embraced this form of communication. Working clients may prefer a text during the day versus a call during office hours, right? People that you're working with, they have jobs, they have stuff going on during the day, they're really busy. And if you expect to be able to get a hold of them, have a phone conversation with them during the day, it's going to be difficult, right? Going to be very difficult. So again, there are 98% of all text messages are opened, 95% are read within 3 minutes. Another thing to consider here is reaching unresponsive clients. You can relate to this. Nearly every attorney struggles with this, to reach a client at some point. Unresponsive clients can be frustrating and hold up processes, right? Why not try shooting them a text? This is where people want to be met, and through business texting, you can be most efficient with your clients. Clients will often move, right? But they don't usually change their cell number, so you can continue that communication, right? And through business texting, you have your main firm number that you're texting from, so you're not losing that conversation either. All right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the specific aspects here of business texting, how it can be effective. We'll talk a little bit about another rule here in the next slide that allows you to be compliant and provide the best experience. So you can easily share and receive case updates, right? So you can share with your clients, or they can share with you, rather, evidence. You can share case updates quickly. No longer do you have to wait for weeks or days for a response. And then once that text is received, you can easily save the photos on your server. Depending on the business texting platform, you can also save it in the cloud within your business texting platform often as well. So the example here on the right is a quick text showing images of a car crash here, right? And so they're sending them to you. If they were to send this to your personal cell phone number, you'd have to then forward these pictures on to an admin or someone to put them into your case management system, or whatever that looks like. There's just more steps, and it's difficult difficult to manage those and to keep those in one place. But with a business texting solution, you can go back to that conversation, find those images really quickly, really simply. Let's take a look at another rule here, reasonable efforts to prevent disclosure, rule 1.6. The first section there, A, says a lawyer shall not reveal information relating to the representation of a client unless the client gives informed consent. A lawyer may reveal information relating to the representation of a client to the extent the lawyer reasonably believes necessary. And C, a lawyer shall make reasonable efforts to prevent the inadvertent or unauthorized disclosure of or unauthorized access to information relating to the representation of a client. So this is obviously very important and something that should be top of mind, right? This information that you have with the client is very important, and it's very important to keep it safe and not have it disclosed. Going to comment 18 of Rule 1.6. The unauthorized access to or the inadvertent or unauthorized disclosure of information relating to the representation of a client does not constitute a violation of paragraph C if the lawyer has made reasonable efforts to prevent the access or disclosure. Factors to be considered in the determining of the reasonableness of the lawyer's efforts include, but are not limited to, the sensitivity of information, the likelihood of disclosure if additional safeguards are not employed, the cost of employing additional safeguards, difficulty of implementing the safeguards, and the extent to which the safeguards adversely affect the lawyer's ability to represent clients. So that's comment 18 there on Rule 1.6. So talking a little bit more about that in the next slide here. Excuse me. Sensitivity of information. Most attorneys are working with sensitive client information at some point while working with the client. Okay, so we've all run into that. At some point, you're going to have sensitive information that you have when it comes to one of your clients. The second aspect there, likelihood of disclosure, right? Lost cell phone. If you have that information on your personal cell phone and you're using your personal number to text, if you lose that cell phone and someone is able to access your cell phone, they have that information, right? Family member utilizing your cell phone, right? Even in the case of a child accessing your cell phone, it's unlocked. Somehow they get into your messages. It could be difficult there. And then you just got to consider: are your staff members texting clients from their personal devices, right? And the next one here: cost of employing safeguards. Texting systems are not cost prohibitive, right? System cost equals 1 to 2 billable hours per month, which cost is more than made up for in increased efficiency, right? So you got to consider the cost of those safeguards and what that cost really is, right? What the risk is of having that communication, that client information leaked or accessible by someone else. Excuse me. Difficulty of implementation. Most text messaging systems can be deployed in a matter of days, right? So this is another consideration here, difficulty of implementation. Most of these business texting systems are deployed very easily, right? Within a number of days, a week or two at most. Adversely affect ability to represent client. The opposite is true here. Texting facilitates communication with clients and makes representation easier, right? More efficient communication, more easier back and forth. The more you can communicate with the client, the better, right? Remember Rule 1.4, a lawyer shall promptly inform the client in regards to updates and other things as well. It does not get any more prompt than a text message. And then as a side benefit, that communication of yours is timestamped as well. A couple questions that have come through here. Let's take a look at these. Is there a business texting platform you recommend? I'm obviously a little bit biased. I work at Connect, so I would recommend at least looking into our business texting platform. It's very tailored, well to lawyers and law practices. So I would recommend ours. There's a lot out there though. Is it possible to turn the information that they send to PDF? How easy is it? Yeah, it's possible. In most business texting platforms, you'll be able to export that conversation, the conversation history, I know you can do that within Connect. Quickly, one button, you can just create a PDF of that conversation history and have that for your records. So that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a big thing when it comes to lawyers specifically and business texting. The ability to go back and reference something that's been said in a conversation, and also the ability to, like I said, print that out. And like you said, make that a PDF. So great questions there. All right, moving forward here, again, talking a little bit about reasonable efforts to prevent disclosure here. Let's keep moving. If your phone gets stolen or accessed by someone else, okay? So put yourself in that situation. Your phone gets stolen, or it's someone else has it. If you're using your personal number to text your clients and communicate with clients, your client data is as secure as your phone password, right? There's one layer of security there. So someone can get your fingerprints, or they can know your code. They can get it in, and once they have access to that, they have access to all your messages. Okay. If you're using a texting service, your client data is protected by a couple more layers of security, right? So someone would have to get into your phone, and then they'd have to get into the texting service application as well. And a lot of business texting services now have multi-factor authentication as well, if they're trying to log in, whether that's on the desktop or on your phone. So a lot more secure, a lot more safe. So even if someone has access to your phone, they won't have access to your client's data. There's another layer of security, and that's something that everybody needs to just kind of reassess every once in a while, right? What are we doing with our clients' data? How are we handling it? Is it secure? Is it sufficiently protected? That's something it's good practice just to consider that often within your firm and how you're handling that information. All right, let's talk a little bit about commingling here. Rule 1.15, safekeeping property. A lawyer shall hold property of clients or third persons that is in a lawyer's possession in connection with a representation separate from the lawyer's own property. Okay. Complete records of such account, funds, and other property shall be kept by the lawyer and shall be preserved for a period of 5 years after termination of the representation. So the first part there, it says keep clients' information, property of clients, separate from the lawyer's own property, right? So keeping things separate is very important, not only from a customer experience or a client experience perspective, but from complying with these rules as well, from that angle as well. So you want to separate those messages, right? If you're using your personal cell to text a client, your personal cell phone number, your messages are commingled, right? And so you're not necessarily complying with this, but it's also just a hassle to have to go in, find these messages. It's just easier to have a business texting platform to go in and say, like, all these messages that I'm looking at, this has to do with my work. This has to do with my practice. I can search for them. I can find specific conversations, and it's all separate. It's kept separate. It's tidy. You got to consider, have you ever inadvertently sent a message to the wrong contact or group of contacts? Right? I think everybody's done that. And the focus here, like I said, is keeping your personal and client texts separate. All right. So like I said, using a separate text app on your phone and making sure it's password protected is the best way to go about that. And like I said, there's a number of business texting applications out there that do just this. A little bit more here about commingling, right? You're giving your clients a practice number to text, right? Your actual firm's number, not your personal cell phone number, but your firm's number. And it's important to use a texting system where messages can be sent using any device, right, including your mobile phone, whether that's a computer, mobile phone, iPad, whatever that looks like. But that all of those messages are sent over your practice number instead of your personal cell phone number. Okay, so again, commingling, making sure you're avoiding that, making sure that's that you're being really careful there. And I've heard it a lot. You've probably heard it as well. You might have this way of thinking that, hey, this is my personal cell phone number. I'm giving you my personal touch, right? We've heard that. Heard it from maybe car dealers, other people trying to build that trust. And at a time that probably worked, and for some people that probably works to build that trust. But we're in a day and age where we just really can't afford to do that, to commingle those texts, to mix that information with our personal texts. And so I think instead a good way to go about it with the client is say, hey, you can text our business number, and that's secured within our business texting system. It's very difficult to access that. That information is safe and secure, right? This is not my personal number. This is safe and secure. It's within a password protected system. And I think so. We're trying to kind of change the narrative on that, is what we're trying to do. Trying to change the mindset there with a lot of people that, oh, actually, this is probably better because my messages are going to a practice dedicated system. They're going to see it. That's going to be safe and it's going to be secure. This is an example of a message inbox. This is what Connect looks like here. But again, all of these messages are relevant to your firm, to your practice. So you're coming in here, you can search the messages, you can see the message history. You can, like someone asked, you can download the conversation history as a PDF, and you can be very efficient here with this. Okay, another thing to consider here when it comes to commingling, what if I already have clients texting me on my personal number? That's a great question, right? But so once you sign up for a texting service, a business texting platform, start letting your clients know about the number on which they should be contacting, right? As quickly as possible, switch things over. Send your clients a text. In a lot of these platforms, you can upload a contact list and create those contacts within the business texting platform. And you can send everybody, a message saying, hey, you can now text us at our practice number. This is it. We look forward to talking with you, something like that. If they reach out to you on your old number, send them a message from the new service requesting that they contact you on the new number. All right. And then move forward with a strategy with these messages. It can be time consuming to try to move all records from your phone to a new system. But we found it's most efficient and best practice to do it on an as needed basis, or to do it by uploading a list. A lot of people have a list of clients and past clients through their case management system. Okay. So again, it's not too difficult a process, right? Some people look at it and say, like, I've been texting people on my personal number for 15 years. I'm just going to stay with what I got. The thought of moving everything over to a business texting platform seems daunting, but it's not really. A lot of these business texting platforms will allow you to set up an automated message. Within that automated message, you could say, hey, you can now text us at this number. You could create that and send that out to clients and potential clients. Let's look at a little bit more into Rule 1.16 here, declining or terminating representation. Upon the termination of representation, a lawyer shall take steps to the extent reasonably practicable to protect a client's interests, surrendering papers and property to which the client is entitled. The lawyer must provide upon request the client's file to the client. That's a specific rule to Utah here, which is where Connect is headquartered. But the lawyer may retain papers relating to the client to the extent permitted by other law. Okay. So someone brought up another question here about printing off someone's conversation history. If that's what's required, or if that's what you want to do with a client after you're done representing them, Very easy to do that within a business texting platform, right? If you try to do that on your personal cell phone number, your personal cell phone, I actually don't know how to do that, how to access a full conversation history on a cell phone, on my personal number. There might be a way to do it. I don't know of how to do it. But if you need to, if that comes up and you're in a situation where you need to print off that conversation history and send it to the client, you can do that easily through a business texting platform. And that might be best practice, right? That's a great customer experience move. It's a great client experience move. Say, hey, it was a pleasure to represent you. Within your file, we're including all of our text history, our text conversation. Kind of shows you're on top of things, right? You're providing all the communication. You're being really efficient and really clean there. A couple other questions that have come through. Let's see. Is the text number a firm's current VoIP phone number? How does it get set up? Would the VoIP service provider provide that service? So the answer is kind of no matter what your number is. If it's a VoIP, a voice over internet protocol number, or if it's a regular landline, most business texting platforms will be able to convert that to a textable number. There's a process of just kind of porting the number over to, in the case of Connect, there's a process of porting the number over to our provider. And if it's a VoIP, and then if it's a landline, just accessing that number. So either way, you'll be able to make your number text enabled. Another question here, how do you maintain text communications for potential bar issues? Good question. I'm not really sure exactly what you're asking there. If you maybe expand on that a little bit, we might be able to address that. But yeah, maybe a little bit more there. How much does a desktop texting system typically cost per month? That's a good question. So, prices vary. Prices vary quite a bit between different platforms. At Connect, I can say that it varies based on if we integrate with your case management system. There's specific add-ons that you can have. So, I mean, yeah, it kind of varies. I would love to give you specific numbers, but I can't really. So, yeah, I'd recommend just reaching out to any of those platforms. Usually, it's around $4,000, $5,000 a year, maybe. But again, a lot goes into that. And when you see the benefits and when you have the opportunity to take advantage of the platform and get the most out of it, I found a lot of situations where it's totally worth it. It pays for itself pretty easily. So that's a great question there. Okay, and then another question. There's cost for a standalone system, no integration. Again, it'll vary between business texting systems. With Connect, you're probably looking around $3,500, $4,000 a year. Don't quote me on that because there's other things that go into it as well. But again, kind of around that area. Awesome, great questions. Keep them coming. We want to make sure all these questions are answered, and that we're using our time wisely here. So, so again, we were talking about the termination of representation, how you can take advantage of business texting platforms to keep that information both for yourself and for the client, providing that for a former client. All right. Comment 9 on Rule 1.16. It is impossible to set forth one all-encompassing definition of what constitutes the client file, right? However, the client file generally would include the following: all papers and property the client provides to the lawyer, litigation materials such as pleadings, motions, discovery, and legal memoranda, all correspondence, depositions, expert opinions, business records, exhibits or potential evidence, and witness statements. All right, so it's hard to define, but including that text conversation, I think, is definitely beneficial. Let's see, text messages from your personal cell number are not likely to make their way to the personal device, making their way from your personal device back into the client file, right? So like I was saying before, it's just easier to have that within a business texting platform and to be able to quickly export that and share that with the client. And then you may or may not be backing up those text messages on your personal number, which could potentially cause to losing data. I mentioned this as well, it can be difficult slash time consuming to get them from your device to return them to the client. And if you or your team are using personal cell phone numbers, there's likely not much accountability for what is being sent or received, right? And this is a big one as well. With a business texting platform, you can see those conversations, right? You can see how your lawyers, you can see how your paralegals are interacting with your clients, right? So someone who's running a practice, you're able to go into a business texting platform and see what those interactions are looking like. You know, are we using words that are, are we using verbiage? Are we using language that is best for the client, that provides the best client experience? Really important to consider that. And through this, it's something you can go in and check on from time to time. Definitely can't do that with personal cell phone numbers. So that is something to consider there. All right, if a client asks for a file and you have messages intermingled on your personal number, that's obviously an issue. That's going to be a tough one. But if a client asks for a file and you have that texting service, you can usually download that, create that PDF, and the data may even be automatically transferred into your case management system through a software integration as well. So you might be able to even have that within your case management system through an integration and make it even easier to get that to potential client. All right, so let's go through here some ways that law firms can use text messaging. Just some of the main use cases. We see a lot of these here at Connect, but a lot of business texting platforms provide the same services, and law firms are able to do this through these services. So the first one here is communicate promptly and securely with clients. Right, we've talked a lot about that. We've talked about the fact that this is where consumers want to be. People want to text, and you're allowing them to do that through a business texting platform. People use this to schedule consultations and send appointment reminders. In a lot of cases with a business texting platform, they will integrate with your case management system. So and a lot of those integrations include the ability to send automated messages based on triggers within your case management system. So, if a case moves to a specific stage within your case management system, oftentimes you'll be able to say, all right, let's delay for an hour, delay for a day, and send a text message to that person with an update. And this is what it's going to say. So a lot of efficiency created there with scheduling consultations and sending appointment reminders. Really helps streamline the intake process and validate cases more efficiently. We see this a lot, right? You're able to quickly have communication. You can send forms through text messaging. You can do whatever it is that you do for your intake process, but do it quicker through texting. Sending case updates and communicating faster overall with that 98% open rate that we talked about with text messaging. A lot of business texting platforms will have the ability to collect fees through texting. So you can create a custom payment link for somebody. So you can include an invoice number, a description, a payment amount. You'll send a text message to somebody that will create, within that text message, there'll be a link that someone follows to a payment page. Okay. And again, that helps you get paid faster, more often, reducing that accounts receivable, and again, taking care of or taking advantage of and capitalizing on that efficiency through texting. And the last one there, number 6, send and receive photos, videos, PDFs, and attachments. Okay, and that includes evidence, that includes whatever that may be, videos, photos, PDFs, whether it's coming from you to a client or from a client to you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how to go about this, how to start texting with clients. Like I said, we work with a lot of law firms throughout North America, and a lot of people are kind of overwhelmed when they think about kind of making the switch to text messaging rather than relying mainly on email and phone calls. The most important thing that people can do is develop a plan, okay? Develop that strategy for texting. So within our firm, are we going to go all in on texting? Is this going to be what we're going to try to push people to, what we're going to try to rely on mostly? Or, is it going to be more of a slower integration into our processes? It's just important to have a plan when it comes to text messaging, and making sure that, and the second aspect of that plan is making sure that your clients are aware of that as well. So saying, if you're going all in on texting, you're messaging out to your clients, we prefer texting now because we know you do, or whatever that may be. Letting your clients know of that plan as well is very important. And letting them know not only through texting, but through other means as well. Posting on social media, using your Facebook and Instagram pages, whatever it may be, including it on your voicemail message. A lot of different ways you can do that. And then a lot of times, as you implement texting with clients, you'll have the ability to add a text us widget to your website to convert more website visitors. And so one thing that I'll address here with that is, a lot of the times you'll have a chat feature on a website, and there's a difference there. You can have a chat feature, or you can have kind of a text us feature there. So, and that depends based on your business texting platform. Some have both, some have chat, some have texting. But it's important to know the difference there. With a chat situation, I'm sure you've all experienced that with a bank or a travel agency or whatever it is. You can chat in and talk with an agent. A lot of the times that'll require you to stay right there by your computer, to keep that window open, to keep your browser open, and to keep your eye on when those new messages are coming in within your browser. And when you leave that browser, you might have to log back in and start a new conversation with an agent. Oftentimes, it won't be the ideal situation when it comes to chat. Now, when you have a specific texting widget on your website, what you're doing is you're initiating a text conversation. Okay, so you'll go on to a website, you'll click on that button, you'll enter your phone number, your name, and your message. That'll go through to the firm through their business texting platform. And then when they respond to you, that comes back to your cell phone, right, to the client's cell phone. And so that initiates that text conversation. It doesn't require that you sit there by your computer and have to keep your eye on the browser. It just initiates a text conversation. So it's really important to understand the differences between those two, between chat and texting on a website. Okay, and again, like I mentioned, some options there of how to let your clients know. Mailers, emails, advertisements, all of the above are effective in letting people know that they can text you, and people appreciate that. So here's a quick example here of what a text us button would look like on a website. This is actually ours at Connect here. A quick button there, you open that up. You can even select different areas of a practice. You can create different departments within the practice, and someone can really narrow down who they're trying to talk to. And on the back end, those can be automatically routed to the appropriate people within your firm. All right. Again, keep those questions coming. As we finish up here, we're going to talk a little bit about just kind of recap things, talk about text messaging systems overall here. So we've had some great questions come through. Some real good questions. I can tell some people are thinking about some things here. I think what we recommend when we talk to somebody who's considering a business texting platform is, first of all, consider what you're doing right now, right? What do your processes look right now? What does your intake process look right now? Who's involved in that process from your firm? What are their roles in that process? How much time are you spending on that process? What resources are you using on that process? And other processes as well. When you finish with a client, when you stop representing someone, what is that process, right? So when we consult with people and we talk to firms, we ask these questions, right? Like, what are you doing? What does your communication look like? How are you generating reviews? How are you sending updates? How are you sending, files, all that stuff? So the first thing that we recommend is to really do a deep dive into what your processes look like right now and kind of audit those processes. Are they most efficient? Are we using the best tools available? Does it make sense to tweak things here, to upgrade things? And then if you decide to move forward with the business texting platform, come up with a strategy for that, like I mentioned. You'll be surprised at how many different aspects there can be to a business texting platform. I mean, it can be very simple. You can use it just for texting, but a lot of them will come with online reputation management or an integration to your case management system. So coming up with a strategy is very important. How much of texting is our practice strategy going to be? What's going to be included there? Are we going to do this just for intake? Are we going to do it for the entire process? Are we going to move our online reputation to this platform? Coming up with a strategy is very important there. And then, like anything, after you come up with a strategy, it's about assigning the appropriate people, making sure there's people who are in charge of these different areas, and following up with that as well, right? A lot of the times when we help people get implemented with Connect, with our business texting platform, we are holding their hand for a good while, right? We want to make sure that it's becoming second nature to text people, that it's becoming second nature to send a review request through text, or to send pictures, send videos through text. And so it's really important to follow up on that strategy and make sure that what you've put into place is actually happening with your staff, and that the process is making sense, that you're making adjustments as needed. Okay, fantastic. Feel free to throw in any last minute questions here. We want to make sure we get everything answered. I'll just finish with this slide here. Again, I mentioned I work with Connect. You can reach out to us if you want. We're happy to answer any questions about the presentation, or walk you through a quick demo specific to your firm. So I'll just wait just a little bit here. It looks like there might be a couple other questions that have come through. Let me take a look here. Another question coming through here. How long does it take to get set up with a text messaging platform? That's a good question. That's really important. And like I mentioned, a lot of people will think of the idea of setting up a business texting platform and think that's going to take forever to get that set up. I don't want to deal with my contacts being moved over, getting all my staff trained. It's going to be a hassle. But I think in most cases with most business texting platforms, it's fairly simple. It'll be easier than you think. I can only speak to what we do at Connect, but that process takes about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. And during that time, I'm sure it's the case with other platforms as well, as you're getting trained, you're getting your integration set up, you're getting your settings configured, your automated messaging, your after hours messaging, whatever that may be, taking about a week and a half or 2 weeks for that. So that's a good question. There's somewhat of an investment there. It's important to understand that. Another question here, is this SaaS or do you have to store it on your own computer server? Great question. So it depends on the system, right? With Connect, it's SaaS, so it's all in the cloud. You don't have to have your own server to store this information on. Other systems might be different, but with Connect, yeah, it's software as a service, so it's all in the cloud. It's a good question. Okay, another question coming through here. How much for a single user? With Connect, again, I can only speak to Connect as far as pricing goes. We don't do pricing based on the number of users, rather the number of locations. So oftentimes we'll work with law firms that have multiple locations. So yeah, we base it on location rather than user. And like I mentioned before, pricing can vary quite a bit, with the simplest package being around, 3,500 to the most complex being up 3,500 to 4,000 a year. The most complex being up, 6,000-7,000 a year. So yeah, again, we don't, at least at Connect, we don't charge per user. It's based on location. Other platforms might be different. Okay. Let's see, another question here. What if the solo's business phone is currently piped into her landlord's telephone system? New phone number, question mark. Usually we can make your existing phone number work. If there is a situation like this where, maybe that might not be as possible, there is a case where we can get you a new phone number, or a business texting platform can get you a new phone number and use that one as your texting number. So that's possible. And that's not always the worst, that's not always terrible, right? People just know that they can text you at that number. Once they have it saved, it's fine. That's how they communicate with you. But usually, at least in the case of Connect, we can get numbers and get them hosted within our system. That seems like an interesting situation there. So best of luck. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, just want to thank you so much for joining today. Really appreciate the time and all the great questions. If you have any more, feel free to reach out to us here. You can visit our website or call or text us at this number. But again, thank you so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll talk soon.